All right then, very well. I think we will go ahead and call to order the meeting of the Budget Committee for March 2nd, 2026.
And we will call to order the Education Impact Fee Task Force.
Very good. First item of business then is citizen communication. I believe the sign-up sheet had no one, so we will close citizen communications. With that then, we have a representative here, Petitioner Bice, to discuss the Educational Facility Impact Fee Study. So, walk us through.
Good afternoon. I'm Ben Griffin with Petitioner Bice. I'm trying not to overload you with a lot of data with this presentation.
Excuse me 1 minute. We have to get this on the floor, don't we?
Counselor? Yes. Well, I guess we probably should now. All right, let's go ahead.
You want to read it? You want me to read it?
I'll be happy to.
Thank you.
Joint Resolution 3-26-4, resolution of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners to amend and implement an amended educational impact fee rate and education impact fee schedule pursuant to the authority granted by the provisions and in accordance with Chapter 120 of the Private Acts of 1987, and to be assessed and collected in the manner as defined in the previously adopted Resolution 11-16-6 and 11-16-7, as amended and acceptance of the Educational Facility Impact Fee Study dated February 16, 2026, concerning residential development on the need for new and expanded educational facilities. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
And the task force also needs a motion?
So moved.
Do you have a?
You're it. You're on the same.
Second.
All right, we have a motion second from budget and a motion and a second for the educational task force fee. Thank you.
All right, so we want to update all of you on the work we've been doing over the last couple of months with the Education Impact Fee update. So I'll give you a very quick overview, refresher on impact fees. Jamie, next slide. So impact fees are one-time payments for growth-related infrastructure. Generally, you're going to collect this, with the building permit. What's important with impact fees is we're using this for capital and not operations, maintenance, repair, rehab, replacement. We need to prove, three things with impact fees. So there has to be need. And, we're looking at system level improvements. This is really easy with schools because generally all of your schools are going to provide a system or district level improvement. So this is the easiest of the three to show. Benefit, we look at two parts of this. So service areas. So there are technically two service areas within this. Essentially, it's are you inside or outside Franklin Special District? Because if you're outside of it, then you pay all components. If you're inside, you only pay part of this because Franklin Special School District is funding part of their schools. So the part that is unfunded rolls over into the impact fee. Also, we want to make sure that you're spending this in a timely manner. That's the other part of the benefit. If someone pays you the fee, we want to make sure that you're spending that so they receive a benefit from that. And then finally, we want to make sure that the fees are proportionate to demand. So we do that with student generation rates with a school impact fee study. So essentially saying, hey, we know that different size units are going to generate different numbers of public school students. So we just want to make sure that we're scaling that so the capital impact is proportionate to the demand for students. And then the most important thing with impact fees is the discussion of level of service. We want to make sure that we never charge future development for a higher level of service than existing development received, unless you've identified some outside funding mechanism. All right, the next slide. This is just fee methodologies. We're looking at the incremental methodology with all of these. So just saying, hey, this is what we provide today. So the square feet per student or the acres per student, the buses per student. And we just want to maintain that going forward with today's costs. And then the next slide, there's discussion of credits. Site-specific credit is less likely with a school impact fee because the developer is less likely to just build a school for you. So it's less likely that you would have a site-specific credit with this. Debt service or dedicated revenue credits, essentially they're just saying, hey, look, we know that future development is going to generate some impact fee revenue, but they're also going to generate these other revenues that could be going towards those same improvements. So we want to make sure that the impact fee includes a credit to reduce the impact fee to offset those future revenues. Just making sure we're not double charging future development. All right, next slide. So I talked about student generation rates. This is a very, very brief overview of that. The top, that's showing, K through 8 students, 9 through 12 students in different size residential units. So 0 to 2 bedroom, 3, 4 plus bedroom. And essentially what this is saying is, hey, based on census data for the county and an adjustment to, line up with your actual enrollment, on average, a residential unit in Williamson County is going to generate about 0.44 students, public school students per housing unit. We know that not every housing unit is going to generate students immediately because you may have an empty nester or you may have, a young couple who doesn't have kids yet. But impact fees look at averages. So the average of, that housing unit right now is, about 0.44, public school students per housing unit. The bottom, that shows the conversion that I mentioned earlier. We want to look at the size of the unit. So when we convert to the size of a unit, we can see that the smaller units are generating fewer students. The larger units are generating more students. So we can adjust the fees proportionately so those smaller units, which are generating fewer students, pays less in impact fees than those larger units because there's less of a capital impact from those smaller units. All right, next slide. This just shows a comparison of your 2026 rates compared to the 2022 study and then the 2019 study. And the big takeaway here is that the small units are generating fewer students. And this sort of makes sense as the cost of housing increases. Those smaller units become less affordable, so it makes sense that you may have fewer people with children living in those smaller units. You can, however, see that those 9 through 12 units, they're down compared to 2019, which sort of makes sense. But we are starting to see a rebound compared to the 2022 rates. That's something that we've seen nationwide. It's the COVID dip in enrollment, and we're starting to see come out of that. But I mean, you can see on the left when you compare the 2026 rates to the 2022 rates in your current study. Essentially, 1,900 square foot and larger homes are generating more high school students than your current fee study shows. K through 8. For the most part, they're generating fewer students. You do break even at that largest size threshold. It breaks even. But if you're looking, basically the larger half of your housing units have caught up or exceeded 2022. So it's really where we're going to see that difference is on the larger units, generating more students than what you previously saw. We look at the next slide. This shows on the left side all of the level of service factors, the cost factors for each of the 3 components. So school facilities, land, and buses. At the bottom, that just shows a summary or the cost per student after we include those credits that I mentioned earlier. So essentially a credit for existing debt and a credit for future debt that you're likely to issue to, sort of front build some of these schools. But essentially what this is saying is for K through 8 schools, it's about $50,000 per student in capital costs. For a high school, about $43,000 per student. We apply these rates to those student generation rates, which you can see at the top right, and that gives the fees by size of unit. at the bottom. So essentially, the maximum fee that we can support, it ranges from about $2,300 for the smallest units up to about $34,000 for the largest units. Again, this is the maximum we can support, and you can adopt anything below that. You just cannot exceed this amount. Look at the next slide. This shows a comparison to the 2022 study. So this is where we start saying, okay, well, what's really driving this cost increase? So the left side, that just shows the percentage increase or decrease compared to the study. But essentially what we're saying is, the school facility costs are up about 110% for K through 8 schools, up about 55% for 9 through 12 schools. So that's, even if your level of service was exactly the same, if you just adjusted for costs, your fees would have to go up to absorb those additional costs. We're not including a land component with the high schools this time because you have enough land. I think what's sort of on the 5 to 10 year horizon is expansions, not brand new schools. So we did pull out the land component for high schools this time to help keep the fee a little lower. We still have it in there with the K through 8 schools. We did pull out the support facilities this time, so that's why you see the negative 100% on all the support facility rows and columns. And then overall buses, that the bus cost is up 46%. So even if you have a slightly lower level of service than you did last time, we're still going to have a higher cost per student because bus costs have increased almost 50%. So when we look at all of this, the capital costs per student is up 210% for K through 8 schools and over 100% for your high schools. And so then when you start applying that to your student generation rates, you don't see as much of an increase in those smaller units because the student generation rate is less this time than it was in 2022. But when you start applying that to those larger units where they've essentially caught back up or exceeded 2022, that's where you're seeing a pretty healthy increase. And so if you look at the fees by the size of unit, we're looking at a 37% increase in the low end to 175% increase on the high end. Again, this is the maximum supportable fee. So you would not be able to charge more than this, but you definitely can charge less than this. And then next slide, I think, is the final slide. So this shows the summary of the maximum supportable fees on the left. So the top is outside of Franklin Special District. Bottom left is inside Franklin Special District. So essentially, you're only paying for the 9 through 12 schools if you're in FSD. On the right, this shows an alternative fee calculation. And essentially, this takes, on the right, that takes the 2022 fees and adjusts them for inflation based on engineering news record construction cost increase. So it's about a 7% increase. And so this is just an alternative to say, hey, look, if you just want to adjust for this national average construction cost increase, it's around 7%. But as we pointed out, we know that the construction costs locally exceed that amount. This is the final slide. I wanted to just focus on a few things because there's a lot of data in that report. And we could be here all night, going through slides and slides of data. But I figured if we could, have about 8 or 9 slides and then open it up to questions, that might help, everyone's eyes from, glazing over.
Questions from the committee? Yes.
Yes, sir. Could you repeat the capital losses that increased for K through 8, please, sir?
Sure. We go back, I think just one slide. So for K through 8, the actual school facility construction
Yes, sir.
is about 110% more. You have a slightly higher level of service today than you did in 2022, which is helping to increase that overall cost increase. But you have almost 100% cost per square foot cost
Okay.
increase as well. The land cost is, I mean, it's a big jump. We were using, I think $40-something thousand an acre in 2022, and we are not doing that anymore. I don't know anywhere that you'd be able to acquire land in the county for $40,000 an acre. So we've, passed that on. So it's, a 418% increase on K through 8 school or land acquisition costs. So essentially the overall cost increase for K through 8 is about 210% increase per student.
Yeah. May I ask another question, Mr. Chairman? With these high school fees going up 55%, did you factor in the football stadiums, the tennis courts, the outdoor lighting, and various other situations that we have with a high school?
Great question. To try and keep these fees more manageable, we're really just looking at, I believe it's 2 high school expansions. So I'm not sure if any athletic facilities or non-classroom space was included in that, but it's the 2 upcoming high school expansions used to come up with that 55-ish% cost increase.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the Budget Committee? Anything for your educational task force?
So what's our, Rogers, I'll ask you, what are you thinking about these numbers?
So the numbers that are put on the resolution before you is to increase there's 2 sections, Tom. One is in the Franklin Special and one is in the outside the Franklin Special area. And as presented to you, raising those fees up, and I'll let Ben tell us those numbers. I think you've got them with you.
Yeah, it's on the next
Yeah,
slide.
right here. I can't see this real good, but yeah.
Let's do it.
This is less than the 400% he was talking about, but it's a reasonable amount. If you let me, Tom, or either one of the chairmen here, to turn to Phoebe and let her give me a number, how much money we've got in it. I see Jeff is talking to her. Phoebe, you want to share with them how much money we have got in our educational impact fee? We kind of went at this systematically and looked at it, how much we've got, how much, and we talked with Jason when we think the next school is coming in, because we're really looking at when the next school comes in, having the abilities to do, depending on the price of it, but paying for that school rather than having to bond it out. Phoebe?
Yes, sir. Currently, we have around 94.9 million, so a little over, right at 95, and that's without reporting what this past month this collections have been. So we're probably around 95, 96.
And Jason, if you don't mind stepping up and so you can be heard by the audience, what they estimated where the next period of time, not the location, but the next school location, the next school, what that would look like.
So our 5-year capital plan projects the next school in the 2029, 2030 timeframe. Middle school, probably. The numbers that you saw about the higher growth in the older grades is what we're experiencing.
So, and with Tom, my final comment to both of you is we're generating about $1 million a month, for our educational impact fee. So if you take Jason's numbers of 3 years out, we'll have about 35 to 40 million dollars more at the rate we're growing, depending on the size of the house. That changes. Just on what we're charging now, bumping that up a little bit, we should be in the neighborhood of 120 to 125 million dollars worth of educational impact fees that we can either pay for a new school or the expansion of a school. We felt that was reasonable. It was a middle point.
Jason, can you remind me, what's it costing us to build a middle school right now?
103.
I remember the high schools were about 100 million a few years ago, but now our middle schools are about 103.
That's right. 103 is our current projection for that time.
Are we thinking about the high school bump outs during that period as well, or what does that look like?
We do have some projected expansions of high schools, about 400 seats or so. I'm going to ask Rachel to pull up the estimate numbers. I don't have those off the top of my head from our 5-year cap plan. And actually, I should have brought my laptop with me because it's right there, if you don't mind.
Of course not, yeah.
18 for those two additions. 2030 and 2031.
So we have two high school projections on our 5-year cap plan at about $18 million each, scheduled for 2030 and 2031.
Okay.
And if I may, we've experienced growth in certain parts of the county, and then other parts of the county are decreasing. So it's largely based on new construction.
Very good. Any other questions from the committee?
Just a concern, so we're looking at roughly 36 million then for the two additions, right?
Yes, sir.
Not counting any increase in cost over the next 3 years on that, or 4 years. So we're close to $140 million. What percent, Rogers, I'm sorry, I can't see that, I'm old, my eyes are bad. What, if it's 400% that he mentioned, what percent are we looking at doing? Your numbers you have in this resolution.
So if you look at the top left, outside Franklin Special, we're currently at 12,399, if I'm looking at that correctly. Is that right? One of you with
Yes.
younger eyes? And we are suggesting we go to an increase of not more, up to 21,663. That's about a 10,000 increase. We could go up as high as 34. Is that what that number is to the left there?
06.
Do what?
34,062.
62. And we kind of split it and said the higher end homes, 34,000 square feet and above, would see whatever that increase is, Tom, so it's dividing 12 by 21. And we, according to his report, we could have gone up to 34. Right, Ben?
That's right.
And I just really thought that's putting too much of a burden. When we're generating over $1 million by increasing that at the rate we're going, I just looked, Lisa sent to us, we are a little under our numbers from last year. So even if you had less numbers, you're gonna be charging more. So you still should average out about $1 million to $1.3 million per month until we have to do this again, which is in 4 years or 3 years. Every 3 years we have to do it.
And you have the ability to raise it during that.
Absolutely.
Window if you need, as long as it doesn't exceed the maximum supportable amount of the report.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jeff, that is correct.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Any further questions from the committee? If not, then I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the increases as stated in 3-26-4 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Budget will mark it unanimous. Would you like to
I
do
guess
the
we'll
task force?
do the same thing for Education Task Force. Those in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Task Force will say it was unanimous as well. I was too, one little difference there. And
Very good.
I believe at that point, I get to adjourn the task force.
Without objection.
Yes, and to all a good night.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, before you go on.
Yes.
I got somebody text me, says they couldn't get the budget, so I'd like to ask Creed. Creed, are we broadcasting live on the? we're
No,
not?
these are recorded, and we'll
Okay.
post them.
Thank you, that's why they can't get it. Thank you.
Not just yet. We'll hurry quickly so they can watch it. Moving on to the next item on our agenda then, we will take on transfers. The first budget transfer we have is from the Health Department. Looks like a transfer of $7,393, installation of new cubicles, machines to better manage the floor. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns, Mr. Plummer? If not, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll mark that one unanimous. Next up, looks like a budget transfer from the Sheriff's Department, $40,600 for special operations utility vehicles. We have a motion
Motion.
and a second.
Second.
Any questions, comments?
What are they for?
This will be to move money out of tactical into other motor vehicles to purchase 2 UTVs or side-by-sides, if you will, for our special events like the fair and the Renaissance and so forth. That'll keep us from having to put that in the capital budget for next year by using the monies that we have saved to purchase those now.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? We'll mark it unanimous. Next budget transfer from Williamson County Archives, $3,000 total? Yes, $3,000 moving around for software licenses, natural gas utilities, and phone costs. Do I have a motion
Motion.
and a second?
Second.
Any questions about any of those? Looks like just utilities. Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll mark it unanimous. Last up is transfer, Williamson County Parks and Rec requesting a passenger van moved over from juvenile services. Can we have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Very good. Any questions about moving the van over? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mark those unanimous. Moving on to our resolutions, if y'all don't mind, I would like to move maybe 32626 and 32627. 32626 deals with the real property on Columbia Avenue. We've got a couple of bond questions coming up. We have Jim Cross here to discuss the real property, so I think that may affect some of the future ones we have. We get that out of the way first, then I would like to hear the property, 32626 and 27. Are there any objections to doing that?
26 and 27.
Yeah, 32626 is with regard to the contract for the property at 926 Columbia Avenue. 32627 is actually, just because Mr. Cross is already here, and he can answer the questions about overriding Franklin on a couple of city things. Number one, we'll take up right after those, or you want to do one? Do one first and then do the
I think he's
26?
saying that the contract doesn't fail, you don't need to deal with one. I think is.
That was kind of where I was thinking on it, but,
Yeah.
and then, which was, I think, then the, 25 is dealing with the initial resolution, which may already be taken care of. So if there are no objections, if we could go ahead and hear Resolution 3-26-26, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute an agreement to purchase unimproved real property located at 926 Columbia Avenue. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. Very good. Jim Cross, would you mind talking to us a little bit about where we are with Columbia Avenue and any potential uses for that?
So right now, the property is under contract. The effective date of that contract was December 9th, 25. We have a 120-day due diligence period, and that, that ends April the 8th. And we have the ability in that 120 days to walk away, get our earnest money back. After that, if we decide to go forward, then the closing's 120 days after the due diligence period is over. That's the way the contract is. And at this point, that's all the work that we've done on that site, other than the Alta survey, phase one, utility, to see what utilities are available. We've done a test fit with Gresham Smith to be sure that contemplated use will fit on the property, which it does. So that's as far as we've gotten on the property. I do think an appraisal's been done. We weren't involved in the appraisal, but I think an appraisal's been done as well.
Yes, we did receive an appraisal from Mark Hedden, I think the appraised value showed 23.5 million as an appraised value. Mr. Mayor, I sat in on property the other day. There was some hesitation on moving forward with these resolutions, and obviously we deferred the bond resolution and maybe denied the publication. I can't remember what order we got those in. Are there any updates or possibilities? What would you like to do with this contract?
Well, I think clearly there is opposition to doing anything for a variety of reasons. And I'm prepared to make a motion, but before you let Jim go, and is Kevin still here somewhere? I saw him. We were asked to do a couple of things. So Jim, you and Kevin can kind of double team this. Each one of you got your own section, just so we get this information out on the street. We were asked to look at a couple of other properties. Kevin has got some prices on some other properties in the general area of Franklin. It has to be in Franklin. It can't be in the outskirts of the unincorporated area. Then Jim can, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, Jim can kind of fill us in on what would it look like. There's been some discussions about renovating the historical courtroom. What would that look like? How about the new Justice Center, which is what, 21 years old? A lot of discussion going on in the community about that. But clearly, Kevin has done some homework here on some other, at least one other property. Another one's already under contract. This property up and down Columbia Pike is very attractive to a lot of business. So Kevin, if you would touch base on the piece of property you handed out the literature on 117 Southeast Parkway, kind of explain to them where that's at, and then the other piece of property, which most of us around here call the old CPS building.
So as you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Mayor, as you go down Columbia Avenue, you'll go left on Southeast Parkway, and as soon as you go over the railroad tracks there, the second building to your left is the warehouse. It was the old Logos brand building. They've moved since to Spring Hill. We looked at that building about 8 months ago, and then I just was asked to look at it again, and I spoke with those involved with the sale. So it is in sale for $38 million. It's 15 acres. It's a 200,755 square foot facility. They do have it available for lease. They'll break it down in 5,000 square foot areas, but that's not something I think we would look at. The building is currently just one large, big warehouse. Lots of doors. It's designed for 18-wheelers to back in, load, unload. The building itself is solid. And the acreage around it, they are currently doing some development there and expanding the back of it for additional parking. But that's all inclusive in the $38 million.
And the other piece of property at the old CPS?
The old CPS is not available, basically. We looked into it. They're leasing some of it out. Nothing's really available right now. I continue to ask those questions. I took about 2 hours around the area today, again, looking for facilities that would fit this, and there's currently nothing that I can find for sale. And I've got 4 real estate agents that are keeping in contact with me, informing me of any kind of industrial area, warehouse spaces, or space for a courthouse, anything that we're looking at would come available, and I've not received any calls recently from them.
And do we have any available land in and around where the jail construction is going on any of those streets that would satisfy this for sale?
But let me back up, Mr. Mayor, please. Across from CPS, we looked at that land about 3 years ago, and we actually went and talked to the church. At that point, they had 17 acres, which they're now developing, so that's not available. But that land that is available there, you'll see a sign, it's just for lease only, and it's under contract. So going back now to
The question is there anything on where we're doing the jail construction and the juvenile and all that, any more available land down there?
there is currently no available land there. We're in talks with Husky as well. They've got a large warehouse there. That's the only large warehouse or large space left available on Beasley and Century Court. Everything else is very small, less than an acre, most of it.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you would, let me call Jim back up, unless you got questions for Kevin, and I appreciate him researching them.
Mr. Surgeon?
I'm just curious. I know we have like 55 acres.
We may have to have you come up to the mic though, just so that your question can be heard.
This is a question. I was just looking on the Arcus map and I saw 55 acres that it looks like we're letting Vulcan mine on. Has anybody thought about not doing that anymore and using it for development?
So I think I can answer that a little bit. Vulcan is an independent contractor. They own that land.
This was land that was said Williamson County owner.
So we own some land that's quarry land. Eddie Hood is here. He's probably got some of that, and we've got some of that, but we do quarrying operations on that.
And we're gonna just keep doing that forever.
Forever is a long time, Commissioner.
I just have figured we'd use that land until we came up with a better purpose for it.
To build a courthouse, to put it next to a quarrying operation?
The jail is right next to a quarry operation.
I'm asking you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's been evaluated or not. It's just an idea. Thank you.
If I could ask Jim to kind of go through, Jim's not here trying to sell us on whether we get the H.G. Hill property that's listed at 926. That's not his role. His role is to give us factual data, information. I would like for him to kind of talk us through the processes if we look at renovating the historical or the jail facility processes. What would that look like from a time? How does that building stack up for renovation? And certainly from the security side, how does that affect the sheriff getting his men and women to provide this security that's needed?
So in 2019 or 2020, when the master plan was finished, the budget to renovate the historic courthouse and the new courthouse was $31 million. I would say that in today's dollars, that's probably going to be more like $45 million. I'm going to say there's about a 40% change from 2020 till now. And that, bear in mind, did not include any additional parking with that renovation. I've talked with the architect, Gresham Smith, who did the master plan, and we think, and also talking with Bell just to get a contractor's input, we think that renovation probably would take somewhere between 3 to 3.5 years to do and keep the courthouse operational. Temporarily relocating the courthouse would be very difficult to do. So you'd have to take the renovation in very small bites at a time and do sections of the courthouse and potentially have to relocate a courtroom somewhere. So that would be a challenge in itself to do that. I also had talked to Sheriff Hughes and Freddie Moore about how would that impact security while you're doing that renovation. I don't know if they want to talk about that or not, but that would also be another challenge about renovating the courthouse. Can it be done? Absolutely, it can be done. It'll just be a challenge to do. And then we still got parking to figure out as well.
So certainly understanding challenges as to how courts would operate, the costs involved, parking issues. Sheriff, can you enlighten us a little bit on security issues on what renovating a courthouse might look like from y'all's end?
Mr. Chairman, if it pleases the committee, I'd ask Freddie Moore to speak on that since he's there every day.
And has been for 40 years, I think I understand.
Has been for 40 years if you've been following the local news.
Creates a lot of problems for us because one of the two things is just moving inmates.
Yeah.
You know, trying to get them in and out. And if you're going to be doing construction where our salad port is, you're going to take that away from us. So now we got to figure out how do we get the inmates in. You know, and then when we're dealing with jury trials and things like that, trying to get all of these people in and out, moving people, it's really a nightmare, to be totally honest with you. It's a lot of things that have to be done, and it would create a big problem for us.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from the committee?
I've got a question, Mr. Cross.
Yes,
Chair.
Can I expand on that one just a second? Part of the issues, and Freddie pointed this out when we talked about this, with the expansion of the existing courthouse, this will be in addition to the new courthouse, not the historic courthouse. You're all familiar with the parking that's beside there where the judges park now. That's proposed to be a pedestal-style building, so you build a 3-story building with the bottom of that being parking with 2 stories above it. And so that parking lot would be out of commission for at least a year and a half or so. But Freddie pointed out is that they enter the Sally Port through that alley coming in behind the old courthouse, and then they exit going that way. So that would pretty well close off the Sally Port with them being able to get out through there. Is that correct? Yeah. So I didn't add that earlier.
Okay, that's pretty simple. Based on the plans we did back in 2020 or so, what do you think the minimum acreage is site-wise?
It depends.
Okay.
How far up and down can we go?
Do your educated guess. Well, yeah, I think the city says 2 stories, maybe 3.
So if you want to do surface parking, then you're going to have a larger site. If you want to do structured parking, you can do it on a smaller site. But you also need to consider whatever you do, if you build any new building, you should consider what your expansion room going to be in the future. So, I would say a very minimum of 3, 5 would be more comfortable.
So the 15 here that Kevin showed is more than adequate for surface parking. That's
more than adequate, yeah.
And tell me again, so I don't have to look it up, the hillside is 6.5 acres?
5.7.
So right at 6 acres, okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Cross, I know you can't give any of us a number about constructing a new courthouse on that site. Can you give us any kind of a ballpark figure?
I really have not put a pencil to that yet, so I'm very hesitant to, back when I was in the construction business, somebody asked me how much something's going to cost. The number you throw out there is a number that sticks in their head, so I'm really reluctant. I'd be happy to do that. But,
I appreciate your addressing the question at all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could follow. Yes. So if you don't have any more questions with Jim, it's very apparent to me that the commission doesn't want to vote on this at this time. They are pretty adamant, the ones that have called me. But most everyone has indicated the same thing that all of us like to have, is to have options and not let options get away from you. And the Hill property, whether it eventually settles there or not, whether it can be buildable on, that's for Jim to determine. But that takes a little time. And so we have extended the offer to the owners of the Hill property. And you heard Jim say we've got until April the 8th in which to make a decision. This commission is also, or several members of the commission have asked, could we get an extension? I don't know that, but I feel like that extension could be a request back to the owner of the Hills property, not for a long, indefinite period, because we've got a price of $17.5 on it. It's come in at $23.5. He had it appraised 2 years ago at $2 million less, so it's gone up $2 million in just a short period of time. And that whole quarter is being developed, and there's a real interest in it, apparently, from Franklin about that particular spot. Knowing what Jim has said and what Freddie has said from the sheriff's department, I would suggest that we ask if we can get a little bit more time, and I'm willing to make an offer to defer this. We don't meet in April. The next time we meet is in May. Unfortunately, the May elections are May the 5th. The county commission meeting's like 8th or 9th. That's like less than a week. And I doubt any more discussions, pro or con, are going to be accepted from the day of the election to the day of the county commission meeting. So I'm thinking, if it's agreeable with you, Mr. Chairman, to make a motion to extend this out to June that allows us to go back to the owner and ask for an extension. That shows him our interest in that property. It shows him that we would like for that to be honored, even though he knows right now that piece of property that he's got has come in at a value higher than what he gave it to us. So it's really his willingness on his part. Otherwise, we're going to lose it completely. Maybe he would extend it to after the June county commission meeting, whatever date that is. What is that date?
You looking at May or June?
June. I don't want to do it in May. Nothing's going to happen in May except an election.
June the 8th.
So if you went to June 8th, maybe take it over to the 15th, give us a little flexibility there to see if he would extend that offer to June. By that time, the commission has got to make a decision. Now, there is a resolution in here, getting a group together, and the city on it and all of that, which I'm not sure that the city should be driving this instrument. This is a county commission decision for you all to make. It is inside the city limits of Franklin, but we don't look at the social and the economic side the way that Franklin and that quarter would generate. But all I'm trying to do is give you an option. Once this option is gone, once the owner of the property says it's no longer there, and he may say that now, then your options are to find something else somewhere else. And so my motion would be, if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, to make it to June 15, 2026, to come back before the funding body of the county commission so that we can ask the owners of this property to extend that paperwork that we've got now.
Second.
So we have a motion, a second, to defer Resolution 32626 to the June.
15. Just get it a few days after. Just don't tie our hands exactly on the day, the 15th of June.
I guess my question, do you think you'll know by Monday whether or not that's acceptable to the seller? Because if it's not, then I've got a contract that expires April 8th or 9th and no meeting after March 9th.
I'll make every effort.
Okay,
You could always call a special meeting.
yes.
I just don't think anything, Mr. Chairman, is going to happen before the election in May.
Yeah, I don't think this body will, but yeah, I was just kind of curious, yeah, if we could find out before it runs out, because the contract's gonna end before we have an election, as it stands currently. So that's my only comment there. Any other comments, questions on the motion to defer? If not, then I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of deferring 3/26/26 to a date no later than June 15th, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll mark that unanimous. 3/26/26 is deferred.
Mr. Chair, I would, while we're at this point, ask that Kevin and his team continue looking at other options, as they have been.
Kevin, keep your ears open.
Yes, sir.
Question.
Yes, Commissioner Sargent.
I don't know how other commissioners feel, but I think it would be.
You can maybe come up so they can, I'm sorry, I hate to ask you to do that, but now that we're recording all these, I can hear you clearly, but if I repeated everything you said, then people get real tired of hearing my voice.
Used to the new system, sorry. It would be helpful to me to be persuaded if I could see an evaluation of other possibilities, especially all the acreage that we own in the county, why it won't work. Because if we could use our own
It has to be in the
land.
city first.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure Beasley is in the city, isn't
I
it?
know, you just said property in the county, so I was just wanting to
Okay.
clarify.
I'll clarify then. All the property owned by the county that's in the Franklin city limits. And, you know, if you just said, look, we looked at this, but we can't because of some good reason, and we go, wow, they've really looked at every option, that would just help. So if before we consider this again, we could have an analysis of all alternatives.
Yeah.
That's my request, so.
And I said, Kevin, I assume you can put together a list of property that the county owns inside the, I guess, current city
Like a
limits.
map that says, these are all the acres, and this is where they're at.
Mr. Chair, I do have that available. Speaking of Beasley, there is no available acreage there. Everything is committed that the county owns either now or to be built in the future, very near future, as part of the JJJ.
Thank you. If there are no other questions or comments from the committee on the motion to defer, we voted on defer. All right, we're done with that. All right, moving on to the next. I wanted to do 27 just because I had Jim Cross here and I think he's explained everything on that and he can explain the questions that I know property had on the Juvenile Justice Center. So if you don't mind, I would like to take up Resolution 3-26-27, resolution to overrule the denial of the City of Franklin Planning and Sustainability Department's action regarding the proposed Juvenile Justice Center, COF number 9026.
Motion.
Motion, second? Second. A second, Commissioner Carter. Mr. Cross?
So this is, just as we've done on other projects, most recently the jail, there are certain items that we feel like is in the best interest of the county to override the city on certain items. These particular items, two of them are related to parking. The city only allows one row of parking in front of a building. And due to the fact that we have such a tight site and the way the building is situated, this is juvenile justice, with the way the building is situated, if we were to push the building towards the street, then the majority of the parking would be in the rear of the building, and it would be really inconvenient for people that are coming there for court or anything else. They have to walk all the way around the building just to get the parking in the front. So that's what those two parking ones are related to. The other one are, the city requires an architectural feature where you have a base to a building and a top to a building. Right now, our architectural design is only in design development. It's not truly settled yet on what that's going to be. But the exterior skin of this building is precast, and we feel like it would be cost prohibitive if we had to add a base to the building and a top to a building. So this would give us the flexibility to not have to do that, but we might still be able to accommodate that. But because you don't meet in April, we're trying to get this ahead of that so we can go ahead and get the permit started with the city.
And I know we've done this a couple of times before. You've had discussions with City of Franklin planning staff about these changes.
Yeah, in fact, when we questioned it, they said, we recommend you just get that overridden by the county commission. They're used to it. They're not opposed to it at all.
Are there any questions from the committee about that? Okay, seeing none, then I think.
Can I add something?
Oh,
to
yes,
that,
please.
just real quick? Just so you know, the city has asked us to submit these buildings separately. So the jail was first, JJC second, Alternative Learning Center is going to be next. And then there's more pieces along with that. So we'll probably be back again over the next several months to take this in bits and pieces instead of one fell swoop. So like for landscaping, for example, I think we're probably going to look at landscaping to see if that's something that we want to, do we want to put a bunch of big trees and bushes behind the jail that nobody's going to see. So we'll probably come back with something like that as well.
I got a question.
Commissioner Webb?
Do you think that what you just said about having that in phases, is that going to affect our building process and maybe the cost of having to do that?
No. So for example, on the Juvenile Justice Center, we have an early release package on footings and foundations that coincide with the jail, so that when the contractor goes to buy that out, they're buying that out as one package instead of two. We did the same thing on site. We did an early release package on the Juvenile Justice Center site package to coincide with the jail, so they bought that out now together instead of piecemeal. And that, by the way, we're still scoping this, but it looks like it's going to be significantly below the budget we are carrying for site work. So trying to buy all this out at one time is very advantageous.
That's a good deal.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, then I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll mark that unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, running back now. We'll try to take these in order now. Resolution 3-26-1, resolution authorizing the issuance, sale, and payment of not to exceed $17,850 of general obligation bonds of Williamson County, Tennessee, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of debt service on the bonds. A
Motion.
Second from Commissioner Carden. Maybe this looks like what we brought up last month.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this was deferred. So this is the same resolution that was deferred in February. This is to issue bonds for not to exceed $17,850,000. This is for purchase of land. Just one note, it does say land for the courthouse. There is no specific property that's actually in the description. This is just to move forward with any piece of land.
I don't have a question. Since you're looking at it, Mr. Chair, I would defer this again because we don't have anything to purchase right now.
It feels like maybe deferral would be a good option here, a few of these, since we're not looking at the contract until sometime out in
Make that motion.
June, so.
To defer that until, shall we say, June 15th, is that working?
We have a motion
Meeting's
to
June
defer.
11th, I think, but
Oh, it's our commission meeting, yeah.
Okay.
you don't need the extra days that you asked for with the contract.
I just coincided, correct, thank you, June 11th.
So we have a motion to defer 3-26-1 to June 11th. Second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
I'm just gonna say, I think the June meeting is the 8th.
It is the 8th.
8th. I'll correct my motion, June 8th to defer.
Mr. Carter, June 8th. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, then I think that we're ready to vote on the deferral. All those in favor of deferring to June 8th signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? I'll mark that unanimous then. Deferred. Resolution 3-26-3, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Board of Commissioners to initiate a request for proposals and retain an independent consulting firm to provide expertise and advisement to the county commission regarding potential transactions involving Williamson Health.
Motion. to get it on the floor.
We have a motion, let's see the sponsor of the bill of the resolution here. We do not have a second. I think we also have had some discussion on this previously, as whether or not it's sitting on the table from a November filed resolution. This was also, I think, brought in some form last month, but I have a motion but do not have a second. So with that, Mr. Mosley, is that just, we move on, no action taken, or?
Motion fails for lack of a
Motion fails for
second.
lack of a second. We will note it that way. Resolution 3-26-5, resolution appropriating and amending the 2025-2026 library budget by $7,090, revenues to come from donations and memorials.
Motion?
Second. Second, Mr. Martin. Is that we've got some donations for the library? Any questions, comments from the committee? Seeing none, then I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Four we'd already done earlier.
That's part of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And well, I didn't announce it being taken out of order, but we did, so
Yeah.
hopefully I don't have to fix that.
Thank you.
All right.
It was actually on the agenda that way as part of the joint meeting, but yes.
I'm a numbers guy, and that number was out of order. Thank you.
Moves on to resolution 3-26-6, resolution appropriating and amending the 2025-26 archives budget by $48,000, revenues to come from archives and records management fee reserve account.
Motion?
Motion. Second. Second, Commissioner Pardon. Looks like they're gonna use some overhead scanners, scanning document materials. Any questions from the committee on that? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mark that unanimous. Resolution 3-26-7, resolution amending the 2025-26 Highway Department budget and appropriating up to $810,000 for personnel and equipment maintenance needs during severe inclement weather events, revenues to come from unappropriated highway fund balance.
Motion?
Second.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, if I interrupt you and ask Eddie to come up, or him and Greg to come up, we actually need to make another amendment to this. It's under the area of contracted services. We've already spent pretty close to the $600,000. and we
Yes,
need to
we
pick up
real close
another
to $600,000
$200,000,
spent.
just picking up all this debris. So this ice and storm and all that's is in excess now of $1 million. But Eddie, if you'll kind of talk us through it.
Yeah, we've used contractors from Aftermath contractors as well as Thompson Consultants. And their price is now gonna go around $800,000, so that's where we need to amend that. The overtime lines in that budget were due to the storm related back in January, as well as the equipment parts too. And it's just a cost, we just incurring the cost back. It's a big expense. I mean, it's not no easy. Pick up debris, there's a lot of debris out there.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you want, I'll make that motion to increase that other contracted services another $200,000, which makes that number $800,000, Jamie, for a grand total of $1,010,000. $1,010,000, and you'll need a second on that, and I need to get a comment on that too, please.
I will certainly second that motion that we increase to $1,010,000 with $800,000 for other contracted services.
So most of you know, a lot of this money, I don't see Todd here to talk to us, but Eddie, you might want to touch on it, how a lot of this money is FEMA.
Connor is here.
Oh, Connor, there he is. How it's, either one of you, how this will be reimbursed through the highway department, through public safety, and a lot of the things, we'll get 75 cents on the dollar. State will match, maybe, hopefully, we're looking at 12.5. The kicker is having that money in the bank. The last time we did this, on a large scale, Phoebe and I were talking about, it was the 2010 flood. It took us over 18 months to get this money back. Connor, is that about right? Just to confirm it, you're 80 to 1?
That's right. So the federal government will reimburse us up to 75%. Historically, the state has also paid 12.5% to take care of half of that 25% remainder. They have not made the decision to do that yet, but we do expect them to make that decision. then the county is on the hook for 12.5%, but we can whittle that down with volunteer hours and some other pieces. But yeah, that's correct. 12.5% is what we need to plan for. And yes, it can take years to be reimbursed, so we do need the money in the accounts.
The May floods you were referring to in 2010, it took about 18 to 24 months to get that back, so it took a while.
Well, I
Yeah.
think,
You'll completely go through another budget cycle next year before you see any of that money coming in.
Yeah.
And if you do this, that just simply means you're telling Phoebe, I gotta find $1 million to stick out of fund balance. But we have to have it to satisfy this overwhelming, this is not talking about the lost revenue that we're losing out at the landfill, with Mac and his department for fees not being charged. So that has the potential. I don't know, we've got a pencil to it yet, but early on, we were looking at over $2 to $3 million just in lost revenue from feed costs and his extra work. So that, Mother Nature has caused us about
She's reckoning right now.
it's hit hard at the wrong time.
It is.
Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Eddie or Connor, either one of you, at the end of the day, from what you've seen so far and what we've got the cost, what do you anticipate the total storm-related costs will be? I mean, I'm looking at Brentwood being 4.5 to 6 million they've set aside. Franklin's probably more than that. What do you think?
Let's see, we're gonna budget, like I said, $800,000 what we're gonna be, but that account what Mac and him is doing, he's probably looking $2 to $3 million probably roughly.
Well, just yours. So you think this million is?
I do, I think, see, we're through all the subdivisions, we got 110 subdivisions, we done went through them one time. And we, to start going back to repeat again, because you got some people bring out there a little bit late and some just added more than they could get out there the first time. We're on our road right now, and if you put all our time in there, Greg he done some figuring one time, it's gonna be, our part alone, probably $3 million? You kind of figure that?
Probably every bit of 2 million after you had this and then the forced labor and equipment.
It's gonna be an expense to me.
So the extra storm, I think you said, if I hear that right, it could be $3+ million.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That's gonna cost us.
Mr. Chair, I got to follow up, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Ms. Riley, that $3 million, since we didn't budget for it, and it's not going to be here until probably calendar year 28, fiscal year 27, 28. How do you handle that?
That will need to come from fund balance. So I'm pulling from fund balance, as you can see here, for the highway fund to cover their cost. We are right now working with solid waste to see what we can absorb and move within their current operations. But we will come back in probably May. It's when I get a grand total of how much we are short for overtime for all departments out of county general. And that will be a whole separate resolution. So we will be pulling more money out of fund balance to totally cover the complete cost between maintenance expenses, man hours, just repairs, that type of thing. There will be additional revenue coming out of fund balance. That is the only place for me to take that if we cannot absorb it currently.
Yeah, and we've got the balance to do that at this time.
Yes, sir, we do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions from the committee on the motion to defer?
No.
I mean, sorry, the motion to amend to $1 million.
Do that.
They're not, no, they're not different, sorry. The mayor, I think we're still hearing the motion to amend to $1,010,000. I think that's what we're on first.
The total resolution would be $1,010,000.
Right.
But it'll be in the line item under other contracts and services to $200,000.
So any further discussion on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? I'll mark that unanimous. Now to the main motion, approving the expenditure as a whole. Right. Any further discussion on the main motion? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll mark that unanimous.
Thank you.
Moving on, Resolution 3-26-8, resolution appropriating and amending the 2025-26 Sheriff's Office budget by $56,000, revenues to come from law enforcement training program. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second, Commissioner Pardon. Sheriff, looks like.
This is
bonuses.
additional money coming from the state through salary supplements, and it will be designated to our SRO deputies. So it's money that we get from the state, additional money that we obviously don't anticipate, but I guess with the excess, they want to give us money, we'll take it.
Absolutely, very good. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, then I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll mark that unanimous. Resolution 3-26-9, resolution accepting a donation of $4,000 for the purchase of equipment and supplies for the Williamson County Sheriff's Office and appropriating and amending the 2025-2026 Williamson County Sheriff's Office budget by $4,000, revenues to come from donations.
Motion.
Second. And a second. Looks like a kind.
$4,000 from an individual donation that we're going to use toward technology.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Riker, for your generous donation. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution 3-26-10, resolution accepting a donation from Friends of Williamson County Animal Center and appropriating and amending the 2025-2026 Animal Center budget by $8,000, revenues to come from donations.
Motion.
Second. Very good. Andre, looks like puppy and kitten food. You're welcome to come up and tell us about it, but that sounds right. Any discussion necessary on this? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll mark it unanimous. Resolution 3-26-11, resolution appropriating and amending the 2025-26 Williams County Office of Public Safety budget by $30,611.77 for overtime, supplies, and maintenance of vehicles. Revenues to come from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, reimbursements for emergency management assistance to Texas.
Motion.
Motion. Second. Second. This looks like it took about 18 months to get to us, so that hangs on with the timeline we were discussing for reimbursements. This is just reimbursing for what we sent down to Texas. So, any questions from the committee for Connor or anybody else? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll mark it unanimous. Resolution 3-26-12, resolution accepting a donation on behalf of Parks and Recreation Department and appropriating and amending the 2025-26 County Parks and Recreation budget by $2,500, revenues to come from donations.
Motion for approval.
Motion is second. Looks like we've got $2,500 going towards all-terrain wheelchairs, and we'll have a few of those coming up. Any questions, comments from the committee? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mark that unanimous. Resolution 3-26-13, resolution appropriating and amending the 2025-26 Parks and Recreation budget by $8,426.51, revenues to come from donations.
Motion.
Motion, and a second. Very good. Looks like some accessibility and donations from J.L. Clay. Yes, Gordon, please, yes. I had you hidden behind the column. I thought I'd seen you earlier, but.
I can't hide that well. Yes, I would like to, and thank you for asking me up, Mr. Chairman. On this particular donation, I would like to recognize Commissioner Judy Herbert. She went out and secured this donation from the J.L. Clay Foundation. And so I just want to commend her for stepping up to help us secure these all-terrain wheelchairs, ATWs, for our nature parks. And so I just want to make sure I recognize Commissioner Herbert for that outstanding work.
Any further questions, comments from the committee? Thank you, Commissioner Herbert. Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Marked unanimous. Resolution 3-26-14, resolution accepting a donation on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Department and appropriating and amending the 2025-26 Williamson County Parks and Recreation budget by $2,500, revenues to come from donations.
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second. More funds for all-terrain wheelchairs. Any questions or comments from the committee? Anybody from the library board? Anybody? Fantastic. If no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mark it unanimous. Resolution 3-26-15, resolution appropriating and amending the 2025-26 Parks and Recreation budget by $164,951.56. Revenues to come from donations.
Motion.
Motion. And a second. Looks like moving funds towards maintenance and scorekeepers. Donations received. Any questions from the community for Gordon? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll mark it unanimous. Resolution 3-26-16, resolution appropriating and amending the 2025-26 county clerk budget by $50,000 for equipment cost revenues to come from filing fees.
Motion.
Motion second. Mr. Whitby?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So we're just wanting to take $50,000 out of a reserve account that we have, fees that we collect to get us through the end of the fiscal year for maintenance and office equipment that we need. And also I will be using some of it to shore up our overtime line that we have, but just so we can pay for that ourselves and use it out of our reserve accounts.
Any questions from the committee on that? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mark it unanimous.
Thank you.
Resolution 3-26-17, resolution appropriating and amending the 2025-26 Veteran Service Budget by $2,586 revenues to come from Memorial Brick Paver sales.
Motion.
Motion second.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, there is a typo in the heading. It says 2586 and it's actually 4275. And in the now therefore be it resolved, it should reflect a 25-26 budget instead of 24-25. It's two typos.
Yes, doing things to resolve those, or should I announce it at the appropriate amount? What's the?
Just acknowledge them as typos and we'll fix them before the meeting.
Very good. So with the $4,275 being for this year's budget, not last year's, any further questions, comments from the committee? Seeing none, then I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We'll mark it unanimous. Resolution 3-26-18, resolution approving a full-time coordinator for the Williamson County Mental Health Court.
Motion for approval.
Special approval in a second. Commissioner Carden, very good. Members of the committee, it looks like this is one of those, if we put the cart in front of the horse, then there's a better chance of us getting the horse. So if we, this is contingent on hiring this, approving, the hire is contingent on the grant fund coming in. I understand that the grant fund is more likely to be awarded if we say we will hire the person if they give us the money. So that's why this is before this committee. Are there any other questions from the committee, or have I over-explained it?
You explained it well, Mr. Chair.
All right. If there are none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll mark it unanimous. Resolution 3-26-19, resolution to permit the Williamson County Mayor to authorize the temporary sale of alcoholic beverages at the Agricultural Exposition Park during the annual Rotary Rodeo. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second. Very good. Commissioner Herbert, I say this is yours. I appreciate you sponsoring that. Rodeo has brought in a lot of money, and Sheriff, you said everything ran fine last year when we did it.
Yes.
All right, those are the only concerns I think I had. Are there any questions from the committee?
I would just add that I had concerns about this last year, and seeing the results, then I'll be in favor of this year.
Very good. Anyone else? If there are no other questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And a pass from Mayor Anderson. All right. Resolution 3-26-20, resolution of the governing body of Williamson County, Tennessee to adopt the Williamson County Safety Action Plan and to commit to seeking funding for needed safety and mobility infrastructure projects. Do we have a motion?
Second.
A second. Mike Madison. You're going to give us the executive summary, I trust.
Yeah, I think it was a 427-page document, so
Well, that's just on letter size paper. If we use legal, we could have gotten it under 400.
There you go, exactly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. I'm going to be brief, just kind of going over this. Our consultant team will be here Monday night, though, to give you some additional information. And then, like you said, I have provided some excerpts from the plans that I thought were applicable for this evening. You may remember that a while back, the county applied for and was awarded a federal SS4A grant administered by TDOT. And that grant funded a couple of different things. One is a roadway safety action plan, and the other is a multimodal greenways plan. And those two plans are kind of companion pieces. They were separate plans, but the same grant funded them. And so there's one resolution that would adopt both of those plans. So once adopted, the county would be eligible for eligible to receive implementation funding. Essentially, that's a key component of this. We used a couple of different consultant teams on the project. AECOM is the consultant that worked on the safety action plan, and then Design Workshop out of Raleigh worked on the Greenways Master Plan. So the Safety Action Plan seeks to reduce fatal and serious injury crashes by identifying the location and the cause of those, and then by employing countermeasures that help reduce those events. The plan created a high injury network, which outlines the roadway segments and intersections where there's a higher concentration of those fatal and serious injury crashes. And then a number of countermeasures, everything from rumble strips to lighting to roadway intersection redesigns to help deal with those situations. They did focus in on several different areas within the county to get more specific and to address specific situations. Those are highlighted in the excerpt that you have in page 43. They also they were budgeted to design those countermeasures for one improvement, and that is highlighted on page 48. The other piece of this was the multimodal greenways master plan, which would provide recreational opportunities, but also important transportation linkages between various destinations in the county. This is a project that was developed based on a very significant amount of public input, and there's been a lot of enthusiasm among the public for this project. The plan created a proposed set of routes. There are 21 routes in all, and that totals approximately 222 miles. The Greenways Master Plan is aspirational, but if we only implement a quarter of it, that'll be a tremendous asset for the community. I'll point out that funding could come from a variety of different sources. As I mentioned, that we will be applying for grants to help implement a portion of this. Notably, there are some developments out in the Triune area where the developers are going to be constructing trails, and that's probably a really good place to start in terms of taking what they're going to be providing and creating linkages from there. We also anticipate there could be public-private partnerships to help fund a portion of this. And then we do hope that the County Commission in future years will set aside some funding to help with this project. So from a budget standpoint, there would be matches to grant applications, and that is just a very short summary of the plan.
Are there any questions for Mr. Madison from the committee? Seeing none, then I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Marked unanimous. Resolution 3-26-21, resolution of the governing body of Williamson County, Tennessee, supporting an application to participate in the local Parks and Recreation Fund grant for the turfing of multipurpose fields at the Williamson County Soccer Complex.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Looks like this is an opportunity to get some turf fields out of our soccer complex with potentially $1 million match from the county. Any questions from the committee on this? Seeing none then. Gordon, you need to tell us anything about this? I mean, I know we need turf fields out there because we've got them at Bethesda, and I think that's the only place we have them.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This does give me a wonderful opportunity to once again sing the praises of our great grant writer, Beth Lothers. She has just been a dynamo. She was responsible for the two $2,500 grants that you talked about earlier for the ATWs, and then also, as Mr. Madison was talking about, the grants for the multimodal trails and the safety. Ms. Lothers was responsible for those as well. What we're trying to do here is just start a turf program that is very needed in this county. It's a lot more cost-effective to turf fields than to try to buy property, as has already been demonstrated earlier in this meeting. One of the reasons we also need to do these turfing projects is to accommodate some of these extremely fast-growing sports. Flag football amongst girls, it's now become a TSSAA sport, and we have to keep pace so that we can help the school system and everybody else, meet some of those Title IX requirements. Soccer in this county continues to grow at a super fast pace just because it's just a great introductory sport. And then the third sport that's getting a lot of attention, not only from us, but across the board, is lacrosse. So when you look at those demands, if we have turf fields, we can play year-round, we can play in all conditions. So that's where we are. This is if we get this LPRF grant, then we're asking the county commission just to do the match. If we can get those two, I think that also will be a springboard for us to go out into the community to some of our user groups and generate some additional donations.
Thank you, Gordon. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, then I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Yes.
Any opposed? We'll mark that one unanimous. Resolution 3-26-22, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to approve the amendment to the service agreement with the Williamson County Chamber of Commerce, DBA Williamson, Inc.
Motion.
Second.
Very good. Mr. Mayor, you want to talk about this? I mean, it looks like, I understand that they've kind of lost space. We're just amending the sort of their charters or anything else needs to be said about it. Okay. Any questions?
I think down in your now therefore, you're deleting the articles listed there. The Office of Economic will manage the Franklin Innovation Center and replace it with the Office of Economic Development will lead and coordinate the entrepreneur support, and you can read that. So it's just moving one side to the other.
Any questions from the committee about any of that? Seeing none, then I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We'll mark it unanimous. Resolution 3-26-23, resolution authorizing the annual inflation adjustment concerning permit numbers DML 9400000065 and SNL 94000057. They got all the zeros in there for Williamson County landfill and approving the amendment to the contract for obligation in lieu of performance bonds and to adjust for inflation.
Motion to approve.
Motion second. Mac, you want to tell us what it is? I think I understand that we have to put up a bond for a certain amount, but because we're a good credit risk, we can use a contract instead in case our landfill does something that's not supposed to.
3 years ago, the state had 2 private landfills go bankrupt, and they didn't have enough financial assurance to take care of it. So that's what spurred this. So landfills are supposed to have a pot full of money for that from the private side. Since we're government, we don't have to have that pot full of money, but we still have to say that we're gonna be responsible.
And that went up by the cost of inflation of 4.1%, so, very good. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, then I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'd like to tell you, our landfill last year had 11,500 plus tons of brush. As of Saturday, 6,536 tons, and we hadn't started good yet.
So we're halfway there and we're 2 months in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. Resolution 3-26-24, a resolution of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners requesting amendment to the Tennessee Code annotated related to the authority of the Commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation to contract with the counties for regulation of subsurface sewage disposal systems.
Motion?
Second.
Motion is second. Commissioner Herbert, I know this is one of yours. Commissioner Clifford, I didn't see. This is like we're asking the state to take up something.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, County Mayor, as you all know, there was a resolution back in November dealing with the septic department. One of the things that was requested of me was to draft a report on why the Board of Health is currently the regulatory body over the septic department rather than the county commission in terms of adopting septic regs. I did that research and provided a report to the county commission on January 22nd. You should have received that via email. As a result of that report, Commissioners Herbert and Sanford and Clifford have prepared this resolution that basically is asking the General Assembly to amend the Tennessee Code. Right now, the code is set up where the TDEC commissioner can only contract with departments of health, county health departments, for the county to then run the commissioner's authority in terms of septic in the county. What this does would ask the General Assembly to amend the Tennessee Code to allow the commissioner to contract directly with the county government so that the county legislative body can determine which entity would have that regulatory authority. They're currently non-contract counties, so we wouldn't be asking them to not contract with health departments because those other contract counties would probably want to continue doing that. But this would be an additional authority so that the commissioner could contract with the county, and then the legislative body would determine whether you want to be the entity to adopt the regs, or you want the Board of Health to do it, or another committee or entity that you have in county government. So again, it's a request to the legislative delegation. It's not changing anything. We still have our contract with TDEC. The Board of Health is still the regulatory entity over our septic regs, but that's what this is intended to do.
So this just adds options. It doesn't require anything, doesn't take anything away. And it's also whether or not the state deems it in their wisdom to do so.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the committee on that?
I got a
Commissioner
question.
Webb? Yes.
Thank you, Christie, because, I'm not understanding. It sounds like we put a lot of words here, but we're right back where we started, that the Public Health Committee would still regulate it unless the commission decided that they wouldn't. So if the county commission says we don't want the Public Health Board to regulate wastewater, then the county commission then goes out and takes bids and decides, or it goes back to TDEC. The details, I'm just not 100% sure. I'm not, and again, my thing, I'm not exactly sure. I know I don't want TDEC stepping in and taking the place of our local board. So
Right.
there's nothing here that would prevent TDEC from taking over.
So TDEC, the commissioner of TDEC is authorized to contract with the county when the county requests it. And in fact, they're fairly compelled to do so if the county says, we want to take on that regulatory authority. But the way the Tennessee Code is drafted, the only authority he has is to actually sign the contract and contract with the health department rather than the county government. And that's how we have it set up now. That's how it's been set up since the early 90s. And because of that, the health department's regulatory body over that is the county Board of Health. So this doesn't change that right now. We're going to continue on in that path, and But if the Tennessee code is ultimately changed as we're requesting it, then the commissioner could either contract with the health department like it is now, or contract with the county government directly. And then if it's written the way that we're requesting, then the county commission would decide whether the county commission wants to be the body that adopts the regulations, similar to what you do with the zoning ordinance, or if you then want to delegate it to the Board of Health or whatever entity that you may have. So that's how it's drafted now. The commissioner could cancel the contract with any of the contract counties. There have to be a certain amount of notice. There would need to be some cause. I mean, there'd have to be some sort of indication that that county can no longer continue to operate their program in a way that's efficient and in the same level of authority that if TDEC were doing it. Essentially, we're standing in the shoes of TDEC when it comes to septic regulation in this county, in the cities and outside of the cities.
Today.
And that's how we've done it since the 90s, and this doesn't change that. This just would then, if the state law is changed and the contract is with the county legislative body instead of the health department, then you all could be the entity to adopt those reg changes rather than the Board of Health.
And that could go, we could try that for 2 or 3 years and go back, subject to the Commissioner of Environment Conservation's approval.
Assuming that those two different options, assuming that the code doesn't change the Department of Health, because again, there are other contract counties that are currently in that same setup. So the request is not to eliminate that, just to add this as an additional option. And, again, if the law changes and the contract is with the county and the county commission decides you don't want to be the entity to have to approve all these regs, then as we have requested it, you could then decide the Board of Health is the entity to do that. Or if that becomes the contract with the county, you could decide that, just like with the zoning ordinance, the planning commission gives recommendations and then the county commission ultimately adopts it. So this would hopefully give the county more flexibility to determine how you want that regulatory authority set up in this county. But right now, you don't have that. Right now, it's the Board of Health that regulates it.
So this gives us options. To summarize it, it gives us options.
Assuming that it goes to the legislature and they draft it in that way.
And in the prior meeting, I said, don't assume in dealing with the state legislature. So, but anyway, I understand what you're doing. Thank you.
Yes.
Any further questions from the committee? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Pass.
And one pass. Resolution 3-26-25, an initial resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $17,850 of general obligation bonds of Williamson County, Tennessee.
Motion.
Second. I think this one feels right for deferral.
Motion to defer to June 8th, 2026.
Second. Any questions on the motion to defer? Nope.
You want it deferred or you just want to turn it down?
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I'll say on this, that in the event that the county commission does take some action to try to buy some property, this resolution is not specific to the Hills property. It is specific to property up to a value of $17,850,000. You have got to advertise at some point. If you decide to go to one of the other locations, whatever you do, this will allow you to begin that process. Waiting until June, you still have to advertise for 20 days. So if you come up with something in June, or it's even later than June, you still have to do this, and it'll be generic, not to a location, but to a piece of property up to that value. If it's over that value, this is a moot point.
It does not require you to issue the bond.
That's correct. You're just advertising.
This is where we got a little hung up last month, that we denied the publication and then couldn't even really address the bond issue. So
this has to be done before we can go to market. So if you do approve if this waits till June and you approve the contract in June, then I will have to wait another month and a half because this will have to run before I can actually get money to pay for the contract that you just approved. So this would allow me to move forward and run it in the paper.
So ideally, if there were to be a deferral, deferring to something before June, if it were to be deferred at all, would be preferable because of those timing issues.
Now, technically, approval of the contract as written, the existing contract, would allow 190 or 120 days from the approval of the contract to close. So you would have some time between the approval of the contract and closing to publish. But if you went off to another contract, you may not have that same time frame. So, does that make sense? If you were to go to another location or a different location
that was going to close sooner,
that didn't have that leeway, then you might. Correct. You might run into a conflict. I'm not saying you would, but.
So to legal and finance, we've already deferred the motion authorizing the bonds with 326-1. Now, my thought process, and now you muddied that a little bit, is that they're tied together. And so we can't advertise if we haven't made a decision yet. I know what I'm hearing is because it doesn't identify a particular piece of property, but we're still saying we're gonna issue bonds for this amount. If we advertise it, it's kind of telling folks that that's what we're gonna do.
But we don't have to.
But we don't have to.
Correct.
Right. I can not run it in the paper, but you are to give me the authority to run it in the paper and house. Again, that would be something you would have to trust that I wouldn't run it until you told me to start.
I trust your feet. So, but what if?
You will have time, if you approve in June.
Right.
To give notice and still comply with the agreement, because you have, as I said, at least 90 days to complete the sale.
But we approved this dollar amount today, and that dollar amount may be, if we proceed, could be more or less than this.
Right.
So
Then
what
I
are
would
our
have to-
options?
Right. I would have to come back if it was more than this. This is a not to exceed, so we're fine as long as it's less.
Okay.
But if it's more, then you're correct. I would not be able to, it would be a moot point.
All right, thank you. Well, in that case, I can withdraw my deferral if my second will do that, because I made a good point.
All right.
So I withdraw my deferral of 326.25.
All right, the deferral motion is withdrawn. So back to the original, any further discussion or questions on the publication, authorizing the publication, which would not require us then to issue the bonds and the assurances of our finance director that publication would only occur upon approval of said bonds, so that we didn't waste money on publication, I guess. Any further discussion or questions from the committee? Seeing none, then I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We'll mark that one unanimous. We have taken up 26 and 27, which then moves us to Resolution 3-26-28. This is the late filed. Do I have to get permission from the committee, or was it? Okay, all right. Resolution accepting a donation from Cindy and Mark Enderly and appropriating and amending the 2025-2026 annual summer budget by $50,000 revenues to come from donations.
Motion.
Motion. Second. And a second. How many catios do the Enderlys
Is this
get?
medical
The
supplies?
Enderleys already have 2 catios. This is for medical, drugs and medical. But I just wanted to take a second and acknowledge that the Enderleys are very generous with us. And they give a significant amount every year. So I really appreciate their love for the animals.
I have noticed their name on previous donations before. Very, very kind of them. Any further discussion from the committee on that? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We'll mark it unanimous. Next, late file resolution 3-26-29, resolution authorizing an amendment to the opioid abatement service provider agreement, 21st District Recovery Court, and appropriating funds for additional services, appropriations to come from opioid abatement funds.
Motion.
Second. Jeff, County Mayor, do you want to talk about, this is
If Phoebe's voice will hold out, I'll let her. If not, I'll fill in for her.
So these are for opioid funds that we have, the county has been holding for that purpose. And usually we award these in January. We had to ask, there's an opportunity for the 21st District Recovery Court coming back to us asking for additional funds, but they had an opportunity to do some improvements to some housing so that they could change the, provide additional beds for people in treatment for those individuals. And so they did come back and ask for additional funds above what we had already granted them for that purpose so that we can provide office space, and then in return, they would use the next house to provide beds where the current office is. The opioid task force did approve it unanimously.
Any questions from the?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Seeing none then, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We'll mark that unanimous. I believe that concludes.
Mr. Chairman, you do have one sheet of paper that please take it with you and mark your calendars accordingly. It is listed of all of the future meetings that will be, I hope you've got it. The first 2 pages. It should look like something like this with the different dates and who's coming before this budget committee as we go through the process.
I'll steal Commissioner Webb's copy. And I'll steal your copy.
Motion adjourned.
Yes.